Yeah, he was at the top of my list to play this role. It had to be an actor, nearing the final chapters of his life, and be someone that could captivate an audience sort of with a look of his eye and not much else. So um, I was sitting in a room at Sundance with my first film, and I had just finished writing this before I went to Sundance. And I was sitting there, and he does this welcome speech to all of the filmmakers the first time, or I think all the filmmakers. And you go to this brunch, and there's probably 200 people in the room, and he comes in, and I could sort of barely hear him. I was way in the back, and then this person comes behind me, and I didn't realize, but there was there was essentially a big speaker behind me that had not been turned on, and someone came along, realized it, and about 2 minutes in, plugged in the speaker, and his voice suddenly sort of blasted from over my shoulder. He then proceeded to tell this amazing story about Jeremiah Johnson and how he had to fight for the distribution and all these things. And that voice sort of was sitting in my ear, and I realized, he has many gifts as an actor, but that voice, is right near the top of the list. And I sort of felt like maybe at this point of his career, that voice is almost holding him back in a way. It's baggage that he has to carry with him. So take it away from him and see what he can do. And to his credit, about a month later, I offered him the role, and he read it. And about 4 days later, I was in his office, and he said yes. And so from that day on, it took us about 8 months to then actually go make the movie. But before anything had really happened with my first film, and I don't even know if he knows why, but he's a person who makes his decisions sort of on instinct, and he went with it, or he just loved the idea of a movie that he's in every scene of. So, and what actor doesn't? Yeah, no, it's terribly simple. It wasn't simple to make, but the concept is insanely simple. I love survival films, this sort of general genre. I think it's kind of a fun place to be, and in a weird way, one that's so fraught with sort of issues. There's very little it's really from a writing perspective. It's just very difficult to come up with any kind of a convincing or realistic sort of narrative thread that doesn't feel forced. And so in a way, I said, what if you sort of don't have a narrative force instead of literally being, with this person? And I thought that was, I wish there was a deeper reason to it, but I thought that was a pretty cool challenge. And then for me, the film is about this guy coming to grips with, his own mortality, which is the one fate we all share, obviously, that, we're not here for long. And so, that's as it turns out, it's kind of everyone's one universal fear, in their lives. And this movie, that's all it's about, is slowly realizing that your time is up, and you better have done everything you could, and tried as hard as you can to the last day. And then, hopefully you go with a smile. And in a way, that's what the character does. Yeah, I mean, it's you, hopefully. He becomes your stand-in, whether you're thinking about your father or your husband or your uncle or in the end, hopefully, yourself. If I had laid in, the sort of, like I said, some of the narrative techniques that you would have used, learning about why he was there, who he was there. Now, there are some hints, and certainly we wanted to set up parameters. I don't think he's been doing this his whole life. He's literally on some kind of a mission. It's not a suicide mission. I think he's well prepared, and so I wanted to communicate kind of concepts about who the character is, and what kind of a person he is. But as far as who and the life that he had lived before that, that's sort of that's for the audience to fill in. And if I had laid that in, uh, the film's very delicate, and if you sort of don't force the audience to keep doing the work for themselves, the whole film kind of would have fallen apart. So I had to be very delicate. Yeah, I think the way I write films usually is I see the entire film almost in its entirety before I ever sit down to write it, and then it's this brutal process of sort of getting that out. But for me as a filmmaker, the joy was that was the movie that I wanted to make, and then to be here where the audiences are. They just seem to love movies, and there is a passion about it. That I haven't seen before, frankly. You walk around and people are talking about them and arguing about them and agreeing on them. And, last night, obviously, I would never want to go through that experience if the audience didn't seem to like the film. I can't even comprehend what it would be like. I think you would just have to embrace that. But that room last night was so beautiful for a filmmaker, and I think for Mr. Redford, who I was sitting next to, who we went through, 3 months of, frankly, not very, this movie, we always knew the movie in its entirety could be really fun. Maybe not fun, but interesting. But the making of it was a sort of very slow, brutal, detailed process that, for me to be sitting there next to him, and what I know I kind of put him through, frankly, emotionally and physically, to do that, to have realized that I sort of delivered a decent movie, which was my responsibility to him, it was obviously pretty cool.